Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time. Jeff and I are two veteran Star Trek podcasters who've watched that show a whole lot. We joined forces to watch Babylon 5 for the first time, and we had so much fun doing that. We said, hey, let's do it again. Let's try to combine the whole thing together and see what comes out of it, and here we are.
So we're giving this show the for the first time treatment. What that means is I've never seen any of this before, not a single one of these episodes. So when I watch this, you're going to have the opportunity to watch me experiencing it for the first time. And if I'm doing my job right, I'm going to let you kind of relive your first time experience as well.
And the other side of the for the first time treatment is we look for those sci-fi messages. We look for those messages that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, just teach us how to be better human beings. And for the first time, I am intentionally looking for those messages while watching Stargate.
And this is still not a Star Trek podcast, so we play this little game to keep us on task. It's called the Rule of Three, and what this game does is limit us to no more than 3 references to Star Trek per episode.
That's it. 3. 1, 2, 3. No substitutions, exchanges, or
Just to make sure everybody understands and knows when we make one of those references, you're going to hear this sound.
You know, Jeff, in the last 2 episodes, we have reached that limit each episode.
2 episodes ago, we went over that limit.
Oh, that's right. I did. I snuck an
But you borrowed because 3 weeks ago we had leftovers, and for that one time,
I don't think we hit the limit on any of the previous episodes. Anyway, not just the Star Trek references. You know what other references might make their way in here, or probably will make their way in here? The Babylon 5 references, since we're really steeped in Babylon 5 right now. So if we do make one of those references, which will be unlimited, by the way, you're going to hear.
Oh, yes.
All right. We're watching Thor's Hammer this week. I'm excited for this one. I made a very bold prediction about this one, that they were going to go to a planet. Prediction number 1. Prediction number 2, we're getting into Asgard and all the Norse mythology of which Thor is a part. And we're going to find out how close I am to that super specific prediction here in a little bit. But before we do that, Brent, can you tell us a little bit about this episode?
So this is episode 10 of season 1. The original air date for this episode was September 26th, 1997, making their way through the 97s. Jeff, there's not a ton that I can say about this without actually just giving away what the episode is about and all the things that happen. But there are several firsts that happen in this episode.
Okay.
We meet some new people for the first time. We meet some new characters for the first time. There's some new phrases that are going to become used a lot throughout the show. A lot of them happen for the first time here in this episode. Things that are, just going to become part of the overall show. So we'll talk about those a little bit more on the back end. But why don't we go ahead and jump into this episode of Thor's Hammer? Hey, if you're here on YouTube and you're watching, what you're about to see is the reaction video portion of this episode. Jeff and I are about to watch it right now. We're going to do it right now for the very first time, right here live with you guys. And if you want to see the unedited version, head over to patreon.com/Babylon5 first. That is the word 5.
It's the number 5 and the word first.
I nailed it last week, and I just, if you're new to the for the first time stuff, I tend to have problems saying that. It seems so easy.
So if you're listening to this on an audio podcatcher, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that kind of stuff, what you're going to experience right here is a little jump, right? So in a couple of seconds, we're going to have gone through the space-time continuum and have watched this episode. Make sure you catch us on the other side, because then I'm going to share my reaction, my first-time thoughts having watched this, and Brent is going to dive into those sci-fi messages, if there were any, and he's going to eventually rate this episode as to how strong those messages were. So, Brent, unless you've got anything else for the good of the order, let's check out Thor's Hammer.
Chevron 7 locked.
Jeff, that was Thor's hammer. We learned a lot. We got a lot of firsts. I definitely want to make sure we talk about those and dive into those. Had a fun couple of fun guest stars in this particular episode. We'll get to all of that, but start us off. You've just watched Thor's hammer for the first time. What you got?
It's that James Earl Jones in it, for goodness sake.
Heck yeah, baby.
Voicing Unis. It's one of those things where, like, you can have a show that's pretty big, and doing well, but, it's its own thing or whatever. But then, like, you literally pull in Darth Vader. You pull in, it's like, wow, huge that he would, come in and do that. It's pretty awesome. Like you said, a lot of firsts, a lot of lore in this one. I think this is the first time we've really tied back to the Shara and Skara storyline that I still believe is going to close out the season.
Mm-hmm.
It answered a question for us, and then it posed a new one that, yes, there is a way to get the Goulds out of them safely and restore them. There was the line that Daniel said at one point that something of the host survives.
Something of the host must survive.
Yeah, there's hope. There's a way to do it. But then, right, huge sacrifice. They're in this labyrinth, and the only way out is through the hammer, and they're doing everything they can. And at one point, Jack just gets frustrated and he yells, this is my favorite thing, when he yelled, "Please, hammer, don't hurt him." Yeah, he didn't do that. But Tilk, I'm not done.
Oh my God, you're such a nerd.
I am, and I'm going to keep going. But Tilk was willing to stay in there. He didn't, I'll stay. A lot of good leadership from Jack in this one.
Much, by the way, much like Jack was willing to stay on that planet last week with Brief Candle.
Exactly. And I was going to say, like, his leadership last week and his leadership here, because Jack's like, no, you're not going to stay here. And if you do stay here, you're not going to stay here alone. And they decide that they can destroy the hammer. They're going to do that so that he can come through. Ultimately, Daniel had to make a big choice. And this was the buildup of the episode. We spent the whole episode with a thing I want to share a thought on here in a minute, but we spent a substantial amount of time building up that there's a path for Shara, just for him to make that call to destroy the hammer. But he wasn't going to give up. Like, he wasn't going to let his team down because Daniel was too legit to quit.
Aye.
There you go. I'm going to try and dig. I think I'm done with my hammer jokes. But yeah, I think, so a big pivotal moment for Daniel on there. But a lot of questions, right? Can Thor rebuild the hammer? Are there other hammers? Is there still going to be some way? Are they going to try and, figure out that technology? And of course, I think the big question for me out of this, who's Thor? Like, who are these people? There's clearly a being or beings that not only are as powerful, it appears, as the Gould, but can take them out. And I mean, within seconds of coming on the planet, they shut down Tilk. He's done. Like, no Gould could come on there. So finding out who Thor is and who these people is going to be critical for them. Now, all of that said, that was what, 44 minutes or something like that?
Something like that.
I feel like it was a 35-minute long episode. They stretched into 44. There was just so much time with Kendra and Daniel and Sam, not even talking, just showing them walking. Yeah. There were parts of this episode where I was just like,
it's almost like they had to pay a bunch of money to the aqueduct people and stuff to go film. And they're like, we're going to get our money's worth out of this.
We're going to get a bunch of B-roll. We're going to do everything we can. Yeah. It's almost about the last quarter of my notes on here. I put that note in there, and it's just like, this is really taking me out of the episode. I just got bored. Final thought, the lore we got on the Gould and Unas, they're kind of the ones that started together. They're the Trill, right? With the symbiotes that were in the thing, and then the hosts, the potential hosts that were there. And I think it was a big moment for Tilk. This whole series so far has been a journey for him. Literally his gods crumbling before him. Mm-hmm. But now not only are his gods crumbling before him, but so are his myths and the legends, the children's stories that he was raised on. Those are now real and also not quite what he thought. Tilk has got to be having a real crisis of, humanity, you know, for lack of a better term at this point.
Jeff, can I address that just for a second?
Yeah.
Because you say that, and it sounds like something that hits very close to home to me. I'm from the South,
Mm-hmm.
the South of the United States for our listeners out there. The South is it's in the United States is a place we refer to as the Bible Belt. It is very deep, very conservative, very staunch. There's just some. It's not a group that likes to progress a whole lot.
There you go. There you go.
Doesn't mean they hate progress. They're just, I don't want to keep things the way they are. That's the group that we're the group that tried to break away and have a civil war,
Right.
a bunch of years ago, well over 100 years ago. And who knows, we might be careening towards that again here soon. I hope not. I'm not calling for it, but I know a lot of people who are. That being said, Jeff, I was born and raised here in the South. I still live here in the South. I'm a Southerner. I have a lot of South in me. I was raised to think, act, and believe a certain way. As I've gotten older, as I've traveled the world, literally traveled the world, moved around, lived around, as I get older, interact with people, I've had several of my core tenets and beliefs that I just sort of took for granted be challenged. And times when I've had to re-examine those core tenets and beliefs and go, do I really believe that? Is that really true? Is this how I really should be treating my fellow humans? And I would be lying if I said to you that whole issue is done and solved and I never have a struggle with it again.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
There are times where I still, there's still that old Southerner in me that kind of speaks or creeps up, or that's kind of, not even say that it's the old me. It's not the old me. It's me just, a decade ago, 2 decades ago. It's a part of my journey. It's a part of where I am. There are still just certain ideas that will initially creep to my mind, and I gotta go, that's a really awful idea. Shove that one down and reject that one.
Mm-hmm.
I got to imagine, I've never thought about it like this for Teal'c, but you bring up that really good point. Like, here he is. He can sit here and say, the Goa'uld are not gods. I do not believe that they're gods. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes into his culture and the way he was raised and the way he was brought up. And so what of that is of value? I don't disregard my Southern upbringing. I don't disregard the Southern way. There's a lot of good in it. There's a lot of great values in it. What is good? What isn't? What is cultural, and what is just being human? And so I kind of get that. Like, sometimes there really is just ooh, that's a gross and disgusting thing, and it came up, and it's my initial reaction that really is a carryover from how I was raised, even though it's not what I am or believe or espouse today.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's great, because we all have that to a point, right? I mean, in the management, leadership, and DEI circles out there, we call that our unconscious bias, right? Or maybe our implicit bias that's within us. And, part of the growth journey many people are on is exactly what you described, identifying that and then checking it, right? It's not about eliminating that from us. It's about acknowledging it and making a conscious choice to either entertain that thought and dive into it, or just kind of brush it aside. Oh, I had that thought, brush it aside, say something else. I think that we all face it in different ways, right? As you were describing that too, I think about children and their parents. There's a point now. You and I have daughters that are young enough that we're still freaking superheroes to them,
Yeah.
That's going to change. They're going to understand who we really are at some point. And, that kind of falls apart. And every single person in the world goes through that moment in their life. For some, it's a very short amount of time. For some, it never ends, where they've got angst against their parents because they realize that they aren't as perfect as they always felt them to be. Take that to that next level for Teal'c, where the core base foundations for how he was brought up, raised, his culture, what's in him, everything. And now he killed a first one that he didn't even think was real.
Killed a myth.
Yeah. Like, wow.
Imagine meeting Bigfoot and then having to kill Bigfoot
Immediately. Like, that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
A couple firsts in this episode, right? So we got Unas. That was the first. We got proof evidence that Goulds can be removed safely. I think that's probably going to be an ongoing important thing.
Yep.
What else do we get?
Yeah. So you heard Thor. Let's go to the hologram of Thor. We know that that's what that was. He mentioned that there is a decree and that the Gould system lords were so informed. This is the first time we've heard of the system lords.
Okay.
I'm not going to elaborate any further on that. We'll hear about the system lords more in the future. Those out there of you who know, you know. Here's another thing that we know. We know that there are other more powerful aliens out there than the Gould that are potentially friendly to humans, or at least not antagonistic, at least not wanting to enslave humans, if not necessarily friends, you know. At least they're not trying to destroy us and bury us underfoot.
Yeah.
But he did say, that hologram did say, this is a protected world for sentient species to allow them to evolve on their own. Unlike the Vorlon, who are trying to push forward evolution through order, or the Shadows, who are trying to push it forward through chaos, they're really prime directing it, letting them go on their own.
Or even dude from last week who shortcutted evolution and generational growth to try and make things happen.
We got the first use of the phrase junior, referring to Teal'c's little baby symbiote.
Okay.
Junior.
I like that. That's funny.
Yes, that is very funny. The other idea, and now I'm not confirming this. I'm just saying that Daniel said this in this episode, to bring up this is the first mention we've really had that the Gould may not have been the gate builders, we don't know that. We have not had confirmation of that.
It's a theory.
Daniel has a theory that the Gould are not necessarily the original gate builders.
Before we gate into the rest of this episode, did you know you're missing most of the content from this podcast? Stargate SG-1 for the first time has an active and exciting Patreon that you can join right now by clicking the link in the show notes. Not only will you get access to the full, unedited podcast and reaction videos, you'll also be able to join a growing, vibrant, maybe even an intergalactic community. Subscribers even get access to all of our content from Babylon 5 for the first time. Don't miss out on this content and the amazing people. Just click the link in the show notes. Teal'c thinks you should do it right now.
Indeed.
There's also, you mentioned the System Lords, and between whatever, the System Lords and whatever, there's a documented agreement where Hologram Thor was able to reference a specific paragraph and section.
Yeah, there is some sort of a thing out there that is like a binding contract that even the Gould abide by.
Apparently, yeah.
If anything, just out of fear, because they will be taken away and zapped.
Well, Brent, that's the first time reaction. It's all the firsts that happened in here. What did you get on sci-fi messages for this one?
Well, you know, we just really kind of talked about the whole thing with Teal'c and what that is to kind of deal with that. Was that what the point of the episode was? I'm going to go with no. I do think that ultimately this is where it came down to. There's a moment at the end, and you referenced it about Daniel and him having to be the one to turn off the gate, the hammer. Daniel's conflict was, hey, this is the thing that can help save my wife. Oh yeah, Jack, also Skara, that kid you like a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
This can do it. This is the method. I have the proof in this lady named Kendra standing right here next to me. But in order to use that, my friend is going to have to die. My friend who is here in my face right now is going to have to die. And I think there is a good piece there. Is this what the writers were intending to say? Or is this just like a bit of a life lesson that Daniel needed to grow up, that we all need to grow up? But it's simply this: the possibility of helping others in the future does not nearly compare to actually helping somebody else right now who's in your face right now.
Yeah. Wow.
How strong was that message? How forefront was that message? I think it was right there at the very end. I think it's there for the grabbing. I don't think it was one that was discussed a whole lot, because I don't think this one needed to be discussed. There was this conversation about this could help. Yeah, but Teal'c's here right now. And okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. I don't have to argue with that one. I'm going to have to swallow this for a little bit because it does hurt because there is that, but this is the right move. And even Daniel said so at the end. This is the right move. So I'm going to give this one 2 chevrons, but I will remind folks out there, chevrons are not a measuring stick of how much we like the episode or how good the episode was. It is just a measuring stick that we give, talking about how strong that sci-fi message is. We used to say how strong the Star Trek message is, and there'd be a lot of Star Trek episodes where they wouldn't get a whole lot of Star Trek message.
I like that rating of 2, specifically because I think I mentioned it when we were watching the episode, but it was a really short and quick path from, hey, we're going to have to destroy this thing, to Daniel going, okay, I'm going to destroy this thing. Like you mentioned it there, like the turmoil was in his eyes. Like there was a little bit of a moment of physical acting that put that across. And I feel like what we know from Children of the Gods and the movie, right, and the entire 14-hour conversation we watched with him and Kendra, that should have been a bigger, I felt it should have been a bigger, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it hurt the episode. I don't think it hurt the message, but I don't think it helped the message that they didn't spend time on that. So I think 2 chevrons is a really, really good rating.
I do have one more thing I want to point out before we get out of here. I always said we like to point out our Star Trek actors and actresses as we find them. I would normally let something like this go, but I just have to point this out. Our lady who plays Kendra.
Mm-hmm.
Kendra is played by a lady named Galen Gorg.
Okay.
Galen Gorg, something like that. Unfortunately, she passed away just a couple of years ago, right before her 56th birthday, passed away due to cancer. Rest in peace. However, Jeff, you may remember Galen as Mrs. Jake Sisko from the episode The Visitor of Deep Space Nine.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. She also was in an episode of Voyager. It was the episode, if you remember, Kes got her mind taken over by like some warlord or something like that. And she was one of the lackeys that was there as well.
That was the one episode that I really liked Kes. When someone else was inhabiting her body.
You realize that Jennifer Lean actually might have been an okay actress. Just that particular character was like,
honestly, we're going on a tangent here, but that episode proves she was a good actor. Like it was a whole departure from Kes, a whole different thing, and she was very believable in that role.
Well, I think the episode that proved Jerry Ryan as a phenomenal actress was the multiple personalities episode.
Yes.
And she had to go through all these different, and you're like, oh, she can actually act. This whole wooden thing is anyway, that's not what this is about. This is about Stargate, Jeff. So Jeff, I give this two chevrons. You, my friend, however, get to place this one on our ranking list, our 100% completely accurate and immutable ranking list. So Jeff, our current top 5, I think we're out of a spot where I'm going to just not name everything, but I will name our top 5. Our current top 5 on the ranking is number 1, The Nox, number 2, Cold Lazarus, 3, Brief Candle, 4, Broke a Divide, and 5, Children of the Gods. Jeff, does this episode crack the top 5? And if so, where does it go?
Last week I talked about specifically Children of the Gods because last week it sat in the middle and the ones above it were really good episodes. The ones below it were really bad. And Children of the Gods is a great episode.
It's one of the better pilots of any show I've ever seen.
Really great, fully formed. Stuff was great. And in fact, I'm not going to belabor the point. There's a lot of great stuff in this episode, a lot of really great stuff. I can't get past just the massive wastes of time in this one. So this is going to be our number 6, right under Children of the Gods.
Okay. And folks, this is why we do these first watches. Because I got to be honest, I would have placed this one much higher. But Jeff, I think I may have mentioned this to you last week. Maybe I don't know if it was on mic or off mic, but I was not sure if this is a good episode in and of itself, or if because I know everything that plays out that comes out of this episode later on, if I'm putting it in that context and remembering it for better. Because this is another one. The Nox, Brief Candle. All episodes that I can put on at any time and just chill to.
This is 100% an episode that is built to set stuff up in the future. that's what it was for. And I don't know that future. So at this point, it's like, well, okay, that's okay.
And you know what? Having gone through this with Matt with Beam Me Up, the original run of Beam Me Up, having gone through this with you over on Babylon 5 first, being in this chair, I can 100% respect and accept that and just go, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, that's going to do it for us here for Thor's Hammer. Next time, the name of the episode we're watching. Jeff, do you remember last week? The name of the god, the name of the Gould that we had last week.
I don't know, he's the Peloponnesian guy. I remember that. Pelop, there you go.
And you remember who I told you? We kind of did like a little background on Pelops. I told you who his father was and his grandfather.
Tantalus and Zeus.
Yes. The name of this next episode, Jeff, is The Torment of Tantalus.
Oh.
What do you think, Jeff? You want to venture a guess?
So there's a version of this.
Can I just tell you, it has absolutely nothing to do with Brief Candle or Pelops.
Okay.
Let me just dispel that. I just, having looked it up and kind of been like, oh, that's kind of neat, realizing those two episodes were really close together. They really have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So
okay, that's good, because that's where I was going. Not the prediction, but like there's a version of this where we're going to carry on that story through that. But like you shared last week, the myth of Tantalus is that he was filled, submerged in water up to his neck, and when he tried to drink, it would move away, and he had food within arm's reach, but whenever he reached for it, it moved away. So he was constantly tantalized with the option of eating or drinking. And so I think that tantalization is going to be the point of this. I'm going to guess Sam. I'm going to get specific on this one. Sam is going to get, no, not Sam. She already got kidnapped once. Daniel's going to get kidnapped, and it's going to be one of those, like, whatever he needs is right there, exactly out of his reach, whether physical reach, academic, something there, like he just can't quite get there. And it's going to take the team coming together to somehow bridge that gap for him.
You're a good guesser, Jeff.
You're very generous and kind with me. I appreciate that.
Well, we'll see exactly how this turns out next time, right here on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hey, don't forget, wherever you are out there, please leave us a rating and review, especially if you're on a podcast app. If you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, share this episode, regardless of how you're consuming this. Share this episode with friends who love Stargate SG-1. Share this episode with people that you know who might like Stargate, maybe people who are just getting into it for the first time and want to go through it with some new friends. Share it with them. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Next time, we will see you back here for the torment.
Hey, Brent, listen.
Every time, Jeff. What's up, buddy?
This is important for you to understand. I know you're trying really hard, but no matter how much you try, your weapons can't hurt me. Come with me if you want to escape.
Oh, for crying out loud.